Hey guys, Steve here, Fanatic Perspective. Sorry for the long delay with the video. It's been super busy the last few weeks, or last week after following the draft, but I want to get back here and churn it out. I want to kind of finish up just, thoughts and everything post draft. I know we went Cowboys heavy last week and want to start taking a look at the rest of the NFC East. One of the things is, as a fan, you always want to be mindful of your opponents. Keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. And looking at the NFC East, I thought it was a very, very interesting draft this year. I'm going to kind of go, quick through each team and then just break out my thoughts. But I thought it was a very strong draft for the NFC East as a whole. And that includes my Dallas Cowboys, and I thought everybody did something interesting, starting with the Washington Redskins. Deron Payne, excellent player, adds to that Alabama pedigree with what they already had, with a player I loved last year in Jonathan Allen, who I thought was probably one of the top 5 players in the draft. Got injured, didn't really play too much, but you pair those two together with another guy that they got late in the draft, and Tim Settle from Virginia Tech, defensive tackle who's like 335, 340 pounds, but very, very athletic, very agile on his feet. They got better at that position group, and it's funny because that was somebody who I was really interested in the 4th round. I don't think I ever mentioned on my video, but he was a very intriguing prospect, somebody that probably could have gone as high as the 3rd or maybe even late 2nd, and I think Washington was able to get him in the 5th round. But their most lauded pick, if you will, Darius Geis out of LSU, running back. If you really think about it, the Redskins haven't really had a featured runner since Alfred Morris. They've been kind of looking for that next guy. They had a lot of production from a receiving standpoint from Chris Thompson, but they really haven't, whether it was Matt Jones or Samaje Perine, and they've tried a lot of these guys. Darius Geis, and you'll see a recurring theme here in the NFC East, guys. It's an arms race, and knowing that they haven't had that runner and getting somebody like that fell for character reasons. We all know what that was with some of the questioning at the combine. He fell to the 2nd round. I thought he was the 2nd best running back in this draft, in my opinion. So I think the Redskins got a steal. Now, how he'll be used will be interesting. We have to see if he can pass block in their scheme and catch the ball out of the backfield. I know that's going to be a big requirement in Jay Gruden's offense. One of the reasons why they kind of moved on from Alfred Morris. So, very interesting pick. I was surprised that Seattle even took a Pumphrey and over a Geis. I know with the character issues in mind, but if you look at the only other guy I can understand why he went ahead of him was Sony Michel from Georgia, because the Patriots want to use him the way the Saints use Kamara. So that I can understand, and he fits in well. He's going to be probably a top tier fantasy back with Saquon next year in the rookie class. But again, if guys can pass block and catch, that's going to be an issue because the Redskins' offensive line is going to be healthy. They were extremely banged up last year, and that was an excuse that a lot of Redskins fans had, and it was valid. Offensive line, they had a lot. They were throwing in. It was a mash unit for all intents and purposes. But you have Trent, Bag, Brandon Sheriff. So that group should be shored up. We'll see if they're able to run the football with a better runner, coupled with Alex Smith. The reason why I'm not too fearful of the Redskins, though, that wide receiving core is still suspect to me. I thought they should have addressed that in the draft. They didn't. They drafted whoever they took with Mr. Relevant, I believe it was a wide receiver. But, if you're going to trot out Paul Richardson and Brian Quick and Jamison Crowder, and then they need Dotson to come through. If Dotson's not going to develop, then then you really just need to lock down their tight ends, and that scheme is tough. But we know Jordan Reed's injury history, and we know how inconsistent Vernon Davis can be at times, and he's getting older, so we'll see. Moving on to the New York Giants, obviously, stellar organization, picking early in the draft, which is unusual for them. I mean, this early, but it wasn't just enough that they were picking early, but then they get to pick behind the Browns, which gave me so much anxiety as a Cowboys fan, because the Browns are going to do something weird and the Giants are going to get the player they want and they don't have to make a difficult decision. I was hoping that Cleveland would take Saquon, number one, so he wouldn't be in our division, and number two, to kind of force the Giants' hand, to either trade or do something crazy. So they take Saquon Barkley. He is in the NFC East. They got their Zeke. From prospect for prospect, he matches up very well against a guy like Ezekiel Elliott, and that's just me being completely objective. I know statistically Zeke was probably a little bit better at Ohio State, but he had a better offensive line. I do think Zeke runs with more power behind his pass than Saquon does, but Saquon is extremely dynamic, has almost like a Marshall Faulk element to his game. Very dynamic pass catcher. You're going to see him used out of the backfield, and he's going to be a 3-down player. Doesn't really have too many weaknesses in his game. Probably the best player in the draft, in my opinion. And unfortunately for us as Cowboys fans, we have to deal with him in New York, with a Odell Beckham, with a Sterling Shepard, with a Evan Ingram, and a revamped offensive line. Because if you notice what the Giants did immediately after picking Saquon Barkley, they go and get Will Hernandez in the second round, get a road grader. For their draft makes sense just from what the things they were trying to do and trying to accomplish. They even went and got a pack. They trade JPP, go back and get Carter from Georgia, who's numbers wise off the charts. Now he's very slim, and I don't know how much he'll contribute year one, but we do know that they have a propensity to get those defensive linemen up and going quicker than most. And they'll probably throw some weight on him and still try to maintain that effective speed that he showed at Georgia coming off the edge. And their defense is going to kind of change up a little bit. I don't know if they're just going to do the four down type thing. I think they're going to try to be a little bit more dimensional, maybe stand those guys up on the edges and try to give teams a different look than they've traditionally shown. Big question with the Giants, as usual, is going to be Eli Manning. As a Cowboys fan, I'm not afraid of Eli. Haven't been. Y'all can interpret that as me talking trash. I really don't care. I'm not afraid of Eli. He keeps both teams in the game, and he's always been that guy, but it's been even worse as he's gotten older. I think a lot of Giants fans are delusional when it comes to Eli, and I get it. He's won 2 Super Bowls, and he gets a pass from the media because of his last name. But, quite frankly, that is a plus for us as Cowboys fans. Not, yes, they drafted a younger guy in Colorado later in the draft, I believe in the 4th round. But, that's barring injury or anything else, he's still going to compete with Davis Webb, and we'll see if he probably won't play this year. It's going to be Eli's team. They're basically doing what we did with Tony Romo in 2014. Yes, they have improved their offensive line, but they're not where our offensive line was in 2014. But they have a runner now, and they're very, very dangerous with a healthy Odell Beckham coming back. Lastly, that leaves the Philadelphia Eagles, and they only had 5 picks. They took a rugby guy with the 7th pick. I'm not sure if that guy's a real person. We'll see. I mean, it was incredible to me that they took somebody like that. I know that, and then you read the guy's scouting report, and it's like 6'8", looks like the Incredible Hulk with his measurables, which is quite frankly was fascinating to me. But they made the big move, traded in front of us at 49. They thought we were going to take Dallas Goedert. Correct me on his name. I should have looked that up beforehand. But they took the tight end from South Dakota, and I guess they thought we were targeting him at 50. But again, that's why I love the way the Cowboys played their board. They didn't panic. They knew at that point in the draft, they had either Connor Williams or the tight or whoever available, and they let the board fall to them. The Eagles did what they had to do. They had traded down earlier the day before, but they ended up with a tight end, and that's very, very dangerous, guys. Don't underestimate that, because one of the things that they had lost to Trey Burton. They cut Brent Selleck, so tight end was a big need for them, and no team deployed two or more tight ends more than the Philadelphia Eagles did last year. That is a huge staple of Doug Peterson's offense. And when you look at him and Zach Ertz, and he's you guys look at the highlight tapes, one-handed catches, he's very fast, 6'5". That's going to be a very, very great, versatile target for Carson Wentz. So it's interesting too, because if I read Kyle Shanahan's manifesto or whatever, just on his thoughts on offense, and he said something that I agree with. There's only 8 to 10 true number one wide receivers in the league, and if you look at Philadelphia, they don't really truly have a number one wide receiver. And this is where the Cowboys could have a little bit of hope with their group. They have a lot of guys who are versatile, they have speed, and they all are good route runners. And really, you look at it, their playmaking now is really at the tight end position in terms of the versatility, the over routes they run. Nobody seems to be able to cover it. You look at the Super Bowl, nobody can cover them. Very, very versatile group. And I think, unless you have a number one guy that you can kind of force feed the ball to, everybody on their team is live. Yes, they have Alshon Jeffrey, but Alshon's stats weren't even as good as Dez's stats. So they're not even relying on him as a number one receiver. They're just relying on him to be an athlete and ready when called upon. I think that's what the Cowboys' mindset needs to be. Again, look at your enemies and adapt. Now, where I'm concerned is with the Eagles addressing that position. We are way behind the 8 ball at the tight end position as it sits here in May. The Redskins, I said it earlier, Jordan Reed, Vernon Davis, the Giants, Evan Ingram, Rhett Ellison, and then the Eagles, they got the new guy Dallas and Zach Ertz. So everybody has two good tight ends. We have, obviously we drafted Dalton Schultz from Stanford. We have to see what type of player he's going to be. He didn't, I love Stanford's program, but he had very minimal opportunities to catch the football in that, the style of offense that he played in. So he's very unproven, a 5th-round guy. You have a Rico Gathers, who, he's another big mystery. He had an awesome preseason, then had a concussion that was out for the whole season. Can you rely on two players that have not played an NFL snap? The most experienced person right now, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe is Jeff Swain. Who's been our 3rd tight end, and is a good, decent prospect, but nothing comparable to the names I mentioned earlier against our opponents. So if you look at, again, I liked everyone's draft. I thought everyone addressed certain needs. I thought the Cowboys did a good job and held serve. And in terms of impact players, I will say this: I will hold Dallas's draft up against any of the teams we drafted against, regardless of slot. I feel that confident about our draft. I know we have some beasts coming into the division, but that's status quo for our division. Our division, I would put our division against any other one. High level football, obviously the reigning Super Bowl champions come from the NFC East, and as good in the big bad wolves that they are. We can take them out. I really believe that as a Cowboys fan. So, hey, it's easy to be optimistic in May. We got to see how things shake out before camp. I fully expect Dallas to address the tight end position, and they may even, address the safety position. I know they brought in some intriguing prospects from an undrafted standpoint, but again, can't rely on those guys. You got to have some sort of veteran presence back there to help the guys out. But that's my quick rundown on the NFC East. Really liked everybody's draft. I thought everybody did a really, really solid job. There wasn't too much I would have changed. I think Washington, like I said earlier, should have got a wide receiver, but hey, we'll see. You guys let me know in the comments your thoughts. Those of you who were fans of either the Redskins, Giants, Eagles, you feel free to chime in. I love to have conversation with everyone. This isn't just solely a Cowboys channel. This is, I try to give objective football thoughts, on behalf of a Cowboys fan, but I do try to be as objective as possible. So I'm going to ramp up the content again. Like I said, I've been busy, but we'll be back with more videos, more breakdown, and appreciate you guys as always. Thank you.